Welcome to Woodworking with Wes. Recently we did a video with this stain and glaze method, which we found out is called cerusing. And while we were doing that, we received a lot of comments from our viewers about a method of finishing wood that I didn't know anything about, called Shou Sugi Ban. And what you do is you burn the wood and then wire brush it to highlight the grain and to bring out a texture. And so we're going to do a video on this piece of fresh wood with our blowtorch that we purchased from Amazon, and wire brush it when we get done and see what we end up with. It's kind of a unique method and I like it. You start off by burning your wood, and how deep you burn your wood gives you the different textures, but we're going to burn a little deep so that we get a nice textured feel. While our first burn is cooling, we're going to do a section here that's not quite as deep and see how it looks. I mean, this is a kind of a new thing for me, and so I'm learning right along with you. We've allowed our burn to cool, and we're going to take our wire brush now and just brush it good and hard and bring out that grain, the color, and the texture. So let's get started on that next and see what happens. That's way cool. I think that is such a neat finish, and I love the color. I think what we might do is just put some clear lacquer on that and see how that looks with just a clear lacquer finish. Now I want to comment a couple of things. We've done this on a piece of pine, just a 2x4 that we bought from our big box lumber store, and we've just gone through and done this. We did a test piece to begin with, and we got a piece that was very tight grain, and we have a nice texture. But the tight grain I didn't care for as much as a nice open grain like this piece. This piece really looks cool with it, the big wide open grain like that. The one thing that we found as we did some testing was it doesn't work very good on hardwoods. Cherry, alder, walnut really kind of just does nothing. We haven't tried it on a piece of oak. Well, let's put it this way. I wanted to use my nylon wheel sander on a piece of oak and then go through and do a burn and redo it and see what that ends up. We'll try that on another video. I think that would look cool. But right now, we're just going to take this over. We're going to put a coat of lacquer on it, and we're going to see how it looks. We're over here in the paint shop. We're just going to give this a clear coat of lacquer with my little spray gun. So let's see what we end up with. Oh, I love the way that looks. When that dries, that's going to stay the same color. The shiny will disappear because it's a flat lacquer that I'm using. But I love the look of that color. As we had done that video, we talked about building a piece of furniture with that finish process. This is that piece of furniture. We did a little table with a shelf down below, and on this video we're going to go through and show all of the things that we ran into, some of the problems and some of the solutions that we came up with in building our table. Let's look. On our Shou Sugi Ban table, and you've seen some of the things that we started to do. We glued up our board, we burned it, we wire brushed it, and you saw what a beautiful color we had on our wire brush, and then we put a coat of lacquer on it. But you'll notice that the original one that we did, the coat of lacquer, was so dark we just didn't like it. So what we did is we came back, we took our Makita wheel sander, and by the way, it works as a great stripper tool. Anyway, we took our Makita wheel sander, and we wheel sanded off that original finish. That also took a coat of, or a layer, I should say, not a coat, but a layer of the char from our original burn of our Shou Sugi Ban. And we ended up with a much lighter finish. You can see now, if you watch the video, you can see where we put a new coat of lacquer on our shelf and our top, and this is the color that we ended up with, and it's just beautiful. It has a very deep texture, a nice finish. That color really stands out. I love the way that the burn has highlighted the grain, and it's just a real pretty table that we ended up with. But we learned a few things. We learned that lacquer darkens our burn. I knew it would darken a little bit, but not as much as it did when we sprayed our first coat of lacquer on there. It was just too dark. So keep that in mind when you're doing your Shou Sugi Ban and you're doing your wire brush. Remember that when you put your finish on, that darkens. So you want to take a little extra off if you want it to be a little lighter. And if you want to do a dye stain or a stain after you wire brush, you've got to go down enough to bring out the base wood between your grain. So let's get ready to put that table together. We're getting ready to assemble our table. We're going to be using these hairpin legs that we bought from Amazon. They have a great selection of metal legs, by the way. But Anyway, one thing I wanted to add before we get going on this, I had talked about the fact that I had used my Makita wheel sander to strip off and take this finish down. Same can be done with a real stiff wire brush, just more work. So don't be afraid to just get after it with a wire brush and take that finish down in order to do that. So we're going to roll this over and put our legs on. Now, you'll notice I put some supports on the back side here. We did a very light scorch on the back side for color. I had some additional brackets out here, but they ended up being in the way of the legs. But these brackets, all they are is just some additional pine stock that I screwed to the back side of this for stability of the top so that it wouldn't bow or cup. And I just put those on there for stability in the construction of the table. We've already got our holes lined up here, and we're going to go ahead and put the legs on just like that. Screw it to the bottom of the table. We'll go through and do that. We're just using some 3/4 inch small screws, and just like that. Very simple. We'll go ahead and put all the legs on the bottom side of the table first, and then I'll show you how we put the shelf in. We're getting ready now to put the shelf in. One thing I wanted to note or to talk about, this leg does not come with a bracket to hold the shelf. So I just drilled a hole in the center leg of this leg here so that I could mount the shelf, and I just measured 8.5 inches. We're going to space the shelf up 8 inches from the floor, and we'll show you how we do that as we install the shelf. First thing we do, we're going to roll this table over. And I made myself 2 8-inch spacers like that. And we're just going to grab our shelf and bring our shelf in here and set it like that on top of our 8-inch spacer. And we'll now tie our legs together. And the bracket will pull, our shelf will pull these legs in all together. And we'll be using a 2-inch black screw in the corner here. Just like this. Well, what do you think? I think we ended up with a pretty nice little table here. Turned out pretty good. It's been an education though. We learned a little bit about the kind of things we need to do to get it a really nice finish on our Shou Sugi Ban, to make the grain pop out and get a beautiful texture. All of these things go as part of the education that you get, I should say, part of the education that you get every time that you do a wood project. It teaches you stuff. That's part of woodworking. But we ended up with a pretty nice little table. And we had a lot of fun. And we look forward to doing all kinds of things like this on Woodworking with Wes.